A decision by the Nebraska Supreme Court this week sparked discussion about the qualifications of a Douglas County Sheriff candidate.
The ruling means Mark Martinez is eligible to run for the office after the Douglas County Republican Party raised concerns over his legal qualifications. First Alert 6 producer Roger Hamer has more.
The Douglas County Republican Party objected to Mark Martinez's candidacy for sheriff, citing a lack of an active law enforcement certification.
I think people are tired of the political nonsense and silliness, I call it.
Attorney Daniel Gutman says Martinez's certification is inactive because he spent several years as a U.S. Marshal.
He was appointed by the President of the United States to one of the highest federal law enforcement positions in Nebraska. You cannot maintain that role and also have an active sheriff's license, which is why it's inactive.
Martinez says his experience as a U.S. Marshal and Omaha Police Command officer and deputy chief qualifies him for the sheriff's post.
Not to mention the community side, where I served on nonprofit boards and volunteering for different agencies. So I got to know intimately the community very well. And so you combine that skill set, that doesn't have an expiration date to it.
Martinez claims the sheriff's office is a mess.
I need to do damage control, if you will.
What do you mean by that?
I think work needs to be done on interagency relationships that have been damaged. I think work needs to be done to gain community trust.
The fact of the matter is that the Douglas County Sheriff's Office works very well with our partners at the state, federal, and local level, and the facts speak for themselves. I don't think it's really fair or right to disparage the men and women of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. They do all the work, and they get great results, whether it's reducing traffic fatalities by aggressively pursuing reckless drivers, or preventing seniors from losing their retirement savings from scammers, or relentlessly pursuing high-risk offenders or sex offenders.
If elected sheriff, Martinez might need to attend a multi-week-long basic law enforcement academy to meet minimum standards.
State law specifically contemplates that candidates who are successful may need to do additional training, regardless of who they are and regardless of their certification status.
That's a bridge we'll cross when I'm elected.
Roger Hamer, First Alert 6.
Neither candidate will appear on the ballot in May because Hansen is the only Republican running and Martinez is the only Democrat. Both say they'll let the voters decide the issue in November.